Yeah. Of recent, you seem to have been an advocate of true federalism, devolution of power, state police. What informed this line of thinking?
I think the Nigerians have the tendency to forget. As far back as 1991, we set up various committees to look at the whole concept of the Nigerian Federation and to come up with something lighter. I remember, for example, may his soul rest in peace, Alhaji Ibrahim Okene. He headed the committee that talked about the devolution of powers to the lowest level of governance. A federal government, for example, does not have much to do with secondary education. These days in Nigeria, the states, the local government, and the individuals run secondary schools. So I think those are things that we should get the federal government's hand out of all these so that people can take their destiny in their own hands. When it gets higher at the tertiary level, that's where you get federal government. Even then, these days, there are about, 40-something odd private universities in this country. So we are capable of running the affairs, provided the government sets up criteria, sets up standard. If you meet the standard, fine, you run your university. If you don't get it.
The other aspect of it has to do with your you are now advocating for state police. Is that your blueprint on security?
No, we advocated. You see, there has been a lot of security problems. I remembered I was in this country, and maybe you were there too, when we advocated for the guards, the National Guard. Everybody went to town and was accusing the government at that time of trying to perpetuate itself, trying to intimidate the citizen, and so on. Now, there are some who are ashamed, or they could not look at me on the face now to say that what we tried to do then was bad. But the state police is to complement the Nigerian police. But they are within the same environment. It's their own environment. Most of the people who are going to be involved in the state police are people of the state. So they help because the knowledge of crime and criminal-minded people in an environment is best handled by people who know the environment very well. And that's why we are saying, I know somebody will now write and say, in the MPC days in 1957 and 56, 53, the political parties use them to intimidate people. But come on, we are talking of 40, 50 years ago. Can't we improve? That's all we are asking.
You've spoken about security, you've spoken about a little bit about education, also spoken about the economic development. Can we take a look at our health situation too? It's deteriorating. The rich is seeking for help outside the country. The poor is left to their fate. So what kind of...
If you check our records, say between 1986 through 1993, we have done wonderfully well as far as health matters are concerned. We had a conviction, for example, on primary health care. Doing it at the lower level with people where you don't need sophisticated equipment, you don't need sophisticated medication and so on, but you train people to take care of their children, to take care of little diseases here and there. And that, if you check by the United Nations standards, we did extremely very well. And then we established centers of excellence in our medical setting. And those medical centers or centers of excellence were properly equipped with the best brains that were handling all this. So really within the 8 years of our administration, we were almost getting there. But then we left in 1993. The rest is a story that you and me know.
So what we could say is that if you come back, we're going to witness a situation where the primary health care will probably be the bedrock of your health program.
Absolutely. But the only good thing also is that we knew what it was then, we know what it is now, and therefore we can be able to map out what it will be in the next 4 years or 5.
What do you mean by your intention that we operate a slim government?
Well, okay, I will explain this. First of all, if you take the entire this country, I feel very strongly you don't need a Ministry of Agriculture, for example, but you can have a department for the purposes of bringing out very good policies, directive. Where is agriculture? Where do you do it? It's in the states, it's in the villages, it's in the local government areas. So if you have an entire establishment at the federal level doing, just looking at how to produce food, I think there is something basically wrong with that. So I don't see why we should put a lot of emphasis on the ministry. Education, as I told you earlier, a federal government doesn't need to bother itself about secondary education. You know, we have secondary schools who are directly under government, right now under federal government, and those things may not be necessary. The main preoccupation of the federal government is going to be defense, foreign affairs, internal security, and then other international organizations where a whole country gets involved. And then that gives you time to relate with other committee of nations in the world. It gives you a lot of time to concentrate on defense of the country. It gives you a lot of time to concentrate on the security of the country. And then come out with policies that have to do with the day-to-day affair of the country.